Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Megan, and today I'm going to be discussing the movie The Housemaid. I just got home from watching it, and boy, do I have a lot to say. So let's get into it. So I read the book prior to this, probably like a month ago or so. I was surprised on how decently well they showed a lot of the novel. I will say the first 2/3 of the movie was pretty accurate to the book. I thought they did a really good job. However, the last third, the last act, oh my gosh, for anybody who read the book, what happened? What did they do? I feel like, oh my gosh, the third act in the book I felt was so good with the twists and turns. And I feel like they just like botched it in the last third of the movie. That kind of ruined it for me. Like I said, it did really good. This was probably one of the better adaptations of a book that I've read and a movie that I like, but just like the last part of the movie, like the last 20 or 30 minutes probably didn't even need to be there. Like Andrew dies in that room. Okay, there's no hallway scene there's no hallway scene with Millie, Nina, and Andrew, him falling down the stairs. Like none of that stuff is in the book. None of it. It's just Andrew dies from pulling out his teeth. And Millie's in the hallway and Nina comes in and she's like, Millie, Millie, Millie. She's like, I will take care of everything. And then it's like the next morning and Nina is talking to the police because he dies with the pliers in his hand. And I was just like, what did they do? What did they do to the ending? Like Millie doesn't even cut herself with the china. Like none of that stuff is in the book. What does happen is after they do hook up in her room, she is there and there's books about like prison and becoming better all on the floor when she wakes up. And so Andrew asks her to balance it on her stomach for I think like 2 hours or something. And that is kind of what it is. And so she doesn't have a knife at all, but she does have pepper spray. And then in the bucket, Nina leaves the key and I think something else she leaves in there. It might have been pepper spray in there as well. But she uses pepper spray and the key to like escape because she sprays him in the eye. So like all the blood and stuff, like none of that stuff is even remotely in the book. Like they made it way more gory than it needed to be. And they just drew out the last act. The last act is like pretty quick. And so Enzo is actually the one who goes to Nina about getting Millie. The daughter doesn't even say any of that. All that is Enzo's stuff. So I was surprised on how little Enzo was in the movie. He's a big part in the book. Like him and Nina hook up in the book. They hook up at the hotel. So when I saw Nina at the hotel, I was like, okay, Enzo's going to come to the door. Then they're going to have their romance because they do have it in the book. And they didn't even show any of that. They all showed all the romance between Andrew and Millie, which, by the way, there's only 2 sexual scenes in the book with Andrew and Millie, and that's the one at the hotel, and then it's the one that's in her room where she gets stuck in afterwards. They did the whole montage thing. I think if they would have cut out the montage, they could have showed Enzo and Nina's relationship as well as Enzo and Millie's dynamic as well, because Enzo's in the book a lot more. And the interactions he has with Millie and he has with Nina are so imperative in the story. And it blows my mind that he wasn't in it. And by the way, why is it winter time in the movie? Why is Enzo outside like pruning the plants when it's winter? The plants are not even growing in the winter time. Oh my gosh, at the beginning, it blew my mind it was winter time. I'm like, why'd you hire this man when it's winter? When it's actually like springtime in the book. I think it's spring and it like goes into summer or fall or something. But like that blew my mind. I'm like, how unrealistic is this? Like, I don't know if they were trying to show like how crazy Nina was going about maybe just hiring him in the wintertime just for the sake of hiring him. But he doesn't do any of it. It's like spring or summertime in the book. So like that was hilarity in itself. But the other thing too is that when it came to the police part, in the book, there is a prologue. And that is the opening scene, is the police scene. So you don't know in the book if they're talking to Nina or they talking to Millie. So I thought they were going to open up with that police scene and just not show the woman on camera, just show the the police just talking to or questioning one of the girls on site, because it's happening, I think, in like the living room, the questioning is, because Andrew is just chilling on the floor in the room dead. So I thought they would have started off with that, and then they would have did the time jump, because they did like 3 months earlier. I don't really remember exactly the time frame of it, but it was a few months earlier, and then they went into the story of Millie going. And in the book, Millie doesn't park in the driveway. She actually has to park on the street because Nina does not allow her to park in the driveway. So that was interesting to like see that. But at the end, when they did do the police part, I thought they were going to like do one of those things where they re-show the prologue scene there, and then it would be revealed on that was actually Nina that they were talking to and not Millie. So I thought they would have did that. I just think that they could have did the third act better. And it's just so good in the book. Like for those who read the book, like the dagger of the heart of Andrew's mother at the very end, okay? When you're reading the book and you get that jaw drop moment of Andrew's mom's reveal at the last couple of seconds, that is how the book ends, okay? And then it cuts to the epilogue, which was shown in the end of the movie. But they didn't show the shock of Andrew's mom knowing how psycho he is. I thought what they should have done is what they did in The Dark Knight Rises at the end, where you don't know if Bruce Wayne is alive, and Michael Caine's character, who I can't think of at the moment, he was just like, I wish I could just see you like having coffee or having tea. So when he goes out and has coffee and tea, he looks up and Christian Bale's character winks at him. And like that moment is so theatrical, and then it just cuts at the end of that in that film. I mean, Alfred like chuckles or smiles, and then that's how it ends with the suspense of the music. That is what they should have had at the end of the movie, with the reveal of Andrew's mom and Nina just standing there at the funeral. They should have just had that moment, and then it just cuts. Oh my gosh, think about how like cool that would have been if they did that. Like, those are the things that I love about film. I'm not a big movie person, but I've seen a lot of movies recently. But it's those moments from the book that are just shocking. And then you need to keep those moments from the book and copy them into the movie. And then, like, add, like, the music and the effect to feel that emotion. Like, oh my gosh, it would have been so good if they would have, like, did that. And then just have it cut, have it black, and then slowly have like music coming out, and then showing Millie in the epilogue at the end where she is talking to the next like client that she has. But man, oh my gosh, just the suspense of like they just like kind of they just totally botched the last act. I'm sorry if I just like ruined it for all you people, but oh my gosh, for who's read the book, if anybody read the book, like, what are your thoughts on the final act? Because, oh my gosh, it was doing so well up until that point. It was doing so well. But on the side note, some other things that were in the book that I was surprised that wasn't in the movie was the peanut butter stuff. So Cece, they made a big deal in the book that Cece is allergic to peanut butter, and they had peanut butter in their house, and Millie gave her peanut butter, and she was, like, allergic to it. And they were, like, so confused. She was so confused with why it was there. And Nina was telling her, like, oh, all that other stuff about the peanut butter. And he was just like, no, she's not like allergic to peanut butter. Andrew says. So it was like this big thing. And they did not show that in the movie. So I was kind of surprised about that. And I was surprised they didn't show a lot about Enzo, which was like really disappointing that they didn't show more of Enzo. Because he, like I said, he's a big part in the movie. Like he is, or in the book. He's a big part in the book. And they did not show enough of him in the movie with him and Nina and him and Millie. Also, Nina doesn't write a letter to Cece. So her part, the first 2/3 of the book is Millie's perspective. And the last third is part of Nina's perspective. And so Nina is writing, I think it's like how to get rid of your husband, or 7 ways to get rid of your husband or something. And she's listing like the 7 things, and you're kind of going back in the past of what action she's making, so that as a reader, you're kind of like justified, or you're informed on why she did what she did. And so I thought it was really interesting how they took that part of the book and represented it based in a letter to Cece. I thought that was really interesting because I think I don't know how they would have done it. And they did do voiceovers a little bit because it is from both Millie and Nina's perspective throughout the book. It alternates. I thought that was really interesting on how they took that liberty in changing it as if Nina was never going to see her daughter again or something along those lines. So I thought that was a really interesting take. And then I was just so upset that Cece took Enzo's lines at the end there about getting Millie and all this other stuff. Like, I was smiling throughout the entire film because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so accurate. Like that was so good. Like, they joined that scene. Like, that was good until the last act. And I was like, oh man, it fell apart. Like, the consistency of things in the book just kind of like fell apart. And so I was just a little disappointed in that. I will say it's one of the better adaptations, like I said, that was from book to movie. But it's just that last act got me. And I was just like, why did they botch it? The movie could have been over like 30 minutes sooner if they would have just stuck with what had happened in the book. Because like I said, the reveal, like even with the mom at the end, was just chef's kiss. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the book. Like I said, I thought it was a decent film for something that was adapted from a book to a movie. So I was pretty satisfied, obviously, except the last act. But if you like watched the movie and really liked it, I would say definitely read the book. There are definitely a little bit of extra things in there. So I'm pretty happy on how balanced it was. Like I said, it's just sometimes there's just some really good stuff in a book. And then they decide to ignore how it's delivered in the book on screen. And you're just like, out of all the liberties you've taken, don't take those ones. Like, keep those nuggets verbatim and put them on the screen, you know? Because as a reader, we live for those moments. You live to see those play out in live action. And then they just like take it away from you, you know? I know art is subjective at the end of the day, so maybe it's just me complaining about it. But it's a really good series. I'm actually currently reading the third one right now. So stay tuned for a review on that.